Welcome back to the weekend football podcast here at Matchbook. Delighted to be joined, as ever, by Mr. Adrian Clarke on the top right of your screen. If you're watching us now live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, mad to get going this morning, Adrian. Marco here is also here. Adrian, first of all, look, we'll look back quickly on last weekend. Couple of puzzling ones in the Premier League again. Monday night being the epitome of that, with Leeds losing 4-1 at home to Leicester, but you pretty much knocked it out of the park with Football League. That red and white double, Brentford and Sunderland, that forward line there.
Yeah, I even had the luxury of knowing early doors that one was going to land. So yeah, that was very sweet, I have to say. But look, Leeds, it's fine margins. Bamford scores that goal, a really easy chance early on. It could be a very, very different game. But full credit to Leicester, they were much better than either I or Mark anticipated.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark, you went against your boyhood club QPR at the weekend. Let's talk about it, because we almost Cardiff went down 2-0. They brought it back 2-2. We would have got away with the push because we had it on the Asian handicap drawn up bet market. But then QPR broke our hearts in stoppage time with an absolute screamer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen QPR score a screamer in stoppage time and kind of rued my luck because of it. Rangers were brilliant in the first half, and Cardiff were absolutely atrocious. They looked really leggy. They looked like they had one day less rest, which they did. Neil Harris was really scathing about their performance after the game, but second half, they absolutely roared back into the game. Really probably could have won it, actually. Should have scored a third before Rangers got that winner, but I was kind of in a weird funk on Saturday evening, kind of watching my team win late on and not being very happy about it, because my pocket took a bit of a battering too. So, yeah, not great.
All right, I think it was pretty good luck the way the market went as well. Right, so look, it was a bounce back weekend, 5 out of 8, 63% knock. We take that every weekend from here on out, guys, especially with this Premier League. I mean, there's a variance is taking a bit of a battering in this coming season. It's just pretty much off the wall goals, and the form lines seem to be just out the window, but let's get into it thereafter. So coming up in today's show, we're obviously going to start off with Manchester City versus Liverpool. We're then going to look at Leicester versus Wolves, Everton versus Manchester United, and we've plenty of thoughts on Manchester United again. Chelsea against Sheffield United to round off the main games. We're also looking at EFL and European bets. No Football League this weekend. We've got Championship as the FA Cup is currently on, and weekend best bets as ever. Right, gentlemen, let's move straight into Manchester City against Liverpool. Adrian, going to start with you here, mate, and let's have a look at the current markets at Matchbook. Manchester City are 2.05, Liverpool at 3.42, the draw available at 4.25. Liverpool getting a half a goal start on the Asian handicap, which I think will probably be a popular enough selection this weekend, at 1.9. 3.25 is the total. Adrian, it's going to be rare event that we're going to get Liverpool at 3.42 against anyone this year and possibly next year. Are they a bit of value here? Because they've actually come in the market in the last 24 hours after that win in Atlanta. They've come in from 3.55 to 3.42. What are you thinking there?
Interesting. Yeah, I think that Liverpool are in slightly better shape than Manchester City, but it's a very difficult game to call. I think that point has to be made first up. We haven't got much to judge City on at home. They got battered by Leicester, of course, and then narrowly beat Arsenal. It wasn't overly impressive. But as far as Liverpool are concerned, Jota, the wild card of Jota, has kind of changed the landscape, hasn't it? It's regenerated Liverpool as a side, and I have to say that I would be surprised if he gets left out of the starting lineup here, even though Firmino is the regular starter. I just feel that he can't really look Jota in the eye and say, sorry, son, I know that you've scored 6 goals in 4 games at a rate of 1 every 41 minutes, but you're not starting. I mean, it's just I think he could be a decisive factor in the game. Liverpool, there's nothing wrong with them going forward. They've had 27 more shots than anyone else in the division across the first 7 games, which I think is pretty good, considering none of us really think they've got going yet. So that's a plus, but they are giving up good chances. There's no doubt about that. I had a look at the big chances conceded. This is really interesting. Only 4 teams have given up more big chances, according to Opta. Man United, no surprise there, and the 3 promoted teams. So So the quality of chance that they're offering up is too good, and City are certainly talented enough to make them pay. So I do feel that goals could be the way to go here. City at home to the top six last season, I think. Five home games against the top six, they all ended over 2.5 goals. The only team that didn't score at the Etihad were Liverpool in that 4-0 defeat. So City against decent teams at home normally sparks goals. But I have to say, I'm slightly siding with Liverpool. I think that they are more potent up front at the moment. And when I look at City, I'm still not quite sure about them. I know they were dominant last weekend against Sheffield United. I know they were good in the Champions League, but up against quality opposition, that back four can still get found out. So Liverpool on the quarter goal start or the half a goal handicap certainly interests me, as does over 3.25 goals.
Yeah, and of course you have the draw on side then if it's a 1-1, 2-1, 3-1. Mark O'Hare, what are you thinking with this one? I mean, you look at Liverpool and there's obviously been plenty of question marks over that defence. There's not too many teams go to Bergamo and get a clean sheet against Atalanta though, Mark.
Yeah, really, really impressive performance. Whether it was Atalanta being poor or Liverpool just being brilliant, probably a bit of both, but really, really impressed by that performance. I expect Jota to get a start after that performance as well. I just wonder whether Liverpool will miss Thiago's link. I know they didn't in midweek, but Atalanta were really poor defensively. Their shape was all wrong, but there's quite a lot of pressure on the fullbacks for Liverpool to create if Thiago's not there. And I do think there's probably an area of respect from these two teams, especially the coaches at least. It is one of those sort of proverbial 6 pointers just at the top end of the table. And these kind of results are going to dictate who wins the title. So I just wonder whether there might be a little bit of, feeling each other out for the first sort of 25, 30 minutes or so. And I'm not sure this game might spring into life as well as we might expect, because City, if they do end up losing this match, will be 8 points off Liverpool. They might have a game in hand, but that's really not ideal as we come into a Christmas schedule, really. So, both have had really difficult schedules, very, very sort of testing schedules. City haven't really hit their straps. I know results have improved since Leicester, but I've not really watched them and been inspired. They're getting the job done. I certainly think they are improving defensively with Diaz and Laporte back there. Kevin De Bruyne's balance in midfield helps massively too, and Gabriel Jesus off the bench to score is a big bonus too. But in terms of the match prices, 2.05 on City, it's the same price they were when they hosted Liverpool after lockdown. Liverpool had already won the title, so not really a huge amount you can read into that. And obviously we've got Van Dijk missing as well, which is probably about a third of a goal for Liverpool. So I think the prices are probably about fair considering we're behind closed doors. Look at Liverpool. Matip should be fit for this game, which means they should have about 4 of their first choice 5 defenders, including the goalkeeper here. So whilst Van Dijk is a miss, they've also been reasonably refreshed because the 5 subs rule in the Champions League, getting that game done early doors against Atalanta will help as well. So, there's not a huge amount that appeals to me, really. I thought the draw was quite a big price considering what's at stake, but also kind of going a little bit against Adrian. I looked at under 3.5 goals. City saw this bank in 11 of 18 against the top half last year. Of course, the 2 games against Liverpool did go over 3.5, but one of which you can't really count with that sort of June match when there was nothing to play for. The other 2, 2 of the other 7 that did were against Burnley, who finished 10th. Liverpool under 3.5 and 13 of 18 against the top half last season. For me, they're not the team of sort of 2 years ago when they would just literally rip teams to shreds and kind of rack up the goals. It's much more about game management and probably a longer term view, I think, from the Liverpool camp to preserve energy and kind of see games out. You saw last year they were winning games of 1 goal quite a lot, quite regularly compared to what they were probably doing 2 years ago as well. So, neither teams have really been massively prolific or exceptional for me in terms of what they're doing in both boxes. But I just wonder whether the size of this match is going to sort of play against us, and potentially there's an opportunity to oppose goals.
I agree with Mark on the fact that they could be watchful, the 2 coaches. I think Pep knows it's a game they can't afford to lose, and Liverpool obviously, because they got spanked 4-0 on their last visit, I think they'll be a little bit wary, especially without Van Dijk. So I can see it being tighter than we hope it's going to be. But I think I'd still stick with Liverpool on the sort of draw no bet or on that small handicap.
Yeah, look, I think we're getting a half a goal start. They're currently at 1.9 at the time of recording, and look, like I said, it's rare you're going to get that in Liverpool anymore. And I think, we have the draw on side then as well with that selection. Again, I don't think it's going to be a massive play for us, but it's possibly one we should lock in now. Okay, we can do that in a recap. We'll come back and maybe just have a quick conversation about it thereafter. But let's look at Leicester versus Wolves again. And look, guys, Leicester, I don't know, can we get on the right side of them at some stage? Because when we're against them, they win, and when we're for them, they lose. So current betting at Matchbook, Leicester City there 2.4. The Wolves away at Leicester 3.46. The draw available at 3.22. Wolves getting a quarter of a goal start on the Asian handicap at 1.9, and the total is a low enough one, Mark O'Hare, 2.25, and juice to the under there at just under 1.83. Right, Mark, can we get Leicester beaten this week, or do we want to be with them? What do we think? Because otherwise, whatever we come up with, the opposite may happen anyway.
Yeah, couldn't have called that game any worse really last week, and I kind of give credit to Brendan Rodgers. In typical Brendan Rodgers style, he took full responsibility for the win post-match, but I'll give him credit because in the pre-match interviews he did identify Leeds' area of weakness. Adrian did last week on the show as well. He talked about how they might get in behind and exploit the high line, and how Leeds can be quite cavalier in their approach really, and it worked wonders. I think the conditions certainly helped. A couple of errors in there from the Leeds perspective as well. So and they did it without Ndidi, Evans, Pereira, Soyuncu, Castagna as well. So really impressive, all things considered. They're now second in the table, and since Rodgers took charge, only Liverpool and City have won more games and earned more points in the Premier League, which is really, really impressive. Saying that, and it sounds like I'm kind of digging my heels in really with Leicester, but I'm still not convinced they're the real deal this year. I think they have had a bit of a rub of the green in some of their games, and the market seems to suggest so as well. If you look at the prices for this game, they're essentially rating the two teams pretty much around the same, considering, if you take out home advantage by a third of a goal, for example, they're kind of saying, we can't really call this match. They're both rated very similarly. I just look at Leicester's goal percentage from penalties, deflections and own goals. That's quite significant. Their total expected goals output, almost half has come from penalties. And they've conceded, they've converted 26% of their overall shots as well, which is just unsustainable. So you have to worry whether they're going to get those opportunities this weekend, playing on the counter-attack to Vardy's strengths. Wolves are a streetwise team. They're not going to allow those big open spaces. And if you look at Leicester's home matches this season, turned over by Villa, turned over by West Ham, without really laying a glove on either of them either. The game against Burnley were missing kind of a catalogue of key players. Aidan deflections, own goals as well really helped them. So, for me, there's a reason why I don't want to be with Leicester. So, for example, that brings into Wolves plus a quarter of a goal. They are a work in progress. Nuno is transitioning that team into a different sort of playing style, a bit more emphasis on keeping the ball, integrating new players, sorting out a new system. There's been a few bumps, but last week against Palace was probably their best 90-minute performance for quite some time now. A huge improvement on the draw against Newcastle. They don't have Europa League commitments either this year, so they'll be refreshed and rested. Leicester have to play their 7th game in a 3-week spell on Thursday night. So, yeah, I do like Wolves kind of to sit in, turn defensive into attack pretty quickly, almost beat Leicester at their own game, if you like. And if you look at the Premier League this season, 35% of home wins. It's not a great amount, and Leicester are a big part of that as well. So, yeah, I think Wolves plus a quarter would be where I'd be going here.
All right, Adrian, we're going to pose Leicester again. Happy with that?
I'm happy with that. Yeah, no, I had exactly the same pick out. I did as Mark. So look, it's a gamble because we can't seem to call Leicester, but yeah, no, for all the reasons Mark outlined, look, Wolves are very solid away to good teams. They keep the score down. I think they had clean sheets in 3 of the games against the top 6 last season on the road. They've already won at Leeds narrowly. They've already they won at Sheff Utd narrowly, and obviously they had a big off day at West Ham, which you can put down maybe as a blip. Leicester's depleted defence did give up good chances against Leeds. They missed a few, didn't they? At one point in that game, you felt like Leeds could easily come back and beat them. So I don't think defensively that they're particularly solid at the moment. Leicester City and Neto, Podence, Jimenez, these guys are in pretty good shape, I would suggest. So yeah, I do like the look of Wolves. Leicester's hard because when you watch Jamie Vardy and Harvey Barnes scintillating, weren't they, at Ellen Road? It was just brilliant to watch. Almost, they're playing football at a different level in terms of speed. you think, well, this team can go on and win the title. They're incredible, but they don't seem to be able to replicate it against teams that sit in and are really well organised. And Wolves will do that, I think, in this game. Worth noting maybe that last season these two teams had a pair of goalless draws. So yeah, they've been traditionally tight in recent times. Nuno up against Brendan Rodgers. So I think it'll be low goals, but my pick is exactly the same as Mark Wolves with a quarter goal start.
Yeah, just to explain the quarter of a goal start, just for those who aren't too au fait with the Asian handicaps, half of your bet is on 0.5. So that means if it's a draw, even a draw, you get paid the profit on half your bet. And if it's a draw, if it is a draw on the other side, 0.0, you get the other half back. So you're still making a profit one way or the other. Funnily enough, with Asian handicaps, I mean, Mark, I think I was telling you this before. I have a friend who's actually a maths teacher, and I've been trying to explain Asian handicaps to him for the last 2 or 3 years, and he still can't get them. He still can't get them. And the great thing is, I know he doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can actually bitch about him about it. But it's amazing, Mark, like that in a long season with Asian handicaps, it is the way to go, Mark, isn't it? Because it is a marathon, not a sprint, and it just covers yourself a lot more in the long run.
Yeah, cover and safety, really. It just protects you a little bit more, gives you a little bit more value out of the price. And there's a reason why pro punters and syndicates use the Asian markets, because they do offer you a bit more. I can understand why people have trouble with them. I did for quite some time when I started betting when I was younger. But if you are struggling, just go online, type in Asian handicap tables. There's plenty of really helpful sort of makes it come to life, basically, the visuals of the table and how it's set out, or result, and how that might play out depending on your angle. So in this case, plus a quarter of a goal, it will explain all things like that. So yeah, very helpful.
Yeah, and head along to insights.matchbook.com. There's a good article on it there as well. It's pretty a good explainer. Right, Adrian, let's move on to Manchester United. Yay. Right. I'll just change my screen up here a bit. But yeah, okay, let's talk about the betting first of all. Everton 3.06 at home. Manchester United 2.45. Mercy. 3.6 is the draw. Everton getting a quarter of a goal start there again, plus 0.0/0.5, a 1.84, 2.75 is the goal market. Right, Adrian, Manchester United. You happy to back him here at 2.45?
No chance. No chance.
All right, let's quickly just talk about last night, okay? Because it's obviously, it's been all over Twitter. I think they're probably lucky that the US election is on at the moment, so they're missing out on that first goal last night, especially. And there's one I'd love to be able to share it here on the screen, but there's one image going around on that first back here goal, and it's like under sixes, Adrian, and that's even probably a kind of an insult on the under sixes. Yeah. It really is. I mean, like there's that much space, and it's just kind of we look back at the Arsenal game last weekend too. This looks a team that's just disorganized and a small bit uninterested right now as well.
Yeah, they were in a trance, weren't they? It was just like, let's just focus on the ball and forget about everything else. It was zombie-esque, really, from Manchester United. But yeah, yeah, I know. It happens. They were poor against Arsenal, I thought, and when Arsenal were comprehensively the better side in the game, no doubt about that. But they just didn't really change anything up tactically. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's had a bad week. I mean, it's amazing how things change. RB Leipzig, of course, they were sensational against them, and then he's had a couple of rotten performances where you have to question the coaching, you have to question the passion of the players. The body language was poor. The attitudes were a little bit lazy and sloppy. Are they being strict enough behind the scenes? So there's a lot, I think, to be concerned about. But there's big lows and big highs following Manchester United. They went to PSG and won. They've produced some big game performances, particularly on the road. Their record in the Premier League away from home is still terrific, and they're scoring goals: 3 at Brighton, 4 at Newcastle. So you can't write them off. And in Everton's home games, they've conceded twice in all 3. So I think it would be foolish to write them off completely ahead of this game, but I can't back them. I can't back them at all. In light of the Everton stats and their sort of iffiness, at the back. I do feel that goals could be the way forward. I think over 2 3/4 goals on the Asian handicap 2.03.
Yeah.
That is probably the pick for me. James Rodriguez, it'd be interesting to see whether he returns. I think he will, but there will still be no Richarlison. Lucas Digne has had his suspension reduced, so he'll be back for the game. So I think that's a big bonus for Everton, because in the wide areas, I think you can really get at Manchester United. And Calvert-Lewin, have to back him, wouldn't you, against the likes of Lindelof and Maguire at the moment. So yeah, it's, who knows what you're going to get with Manchester United. Everton have had a bit of a dip, no question, but a lot of that is down to no James and no Richarlison. So yeah, it's a tough game to call. I think goals is the way, but I quite like Everton. I think they're at a backable price. Is it 3.06? I think you had there, around that for Everton. Given what a bad week they've had already, pressure mounting on Ollie. Could they twist the knife, Everton, and potentially force a manager change come the international break? This is huge for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, by the way. Lose this game ahead of an international break where the board have got time to reassess. I'd be nervous.
It's not all just him, Mark. At the end, I get it that there's some coaches are better motivators. It's probably not one of his fortes as a coach. I'm not trying to kind of rattle my brain to see, has he got too many strengths as it is, but it's down to the players too, Mark. And you look at a lot of these guys, and you look at Matic last night and Pogba the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they're going to get this guy the bullet, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken elsewhere and spoken to people in the industry as well who sort of saw the Başakşehir game as the sort of matchday 3 and matchday 4 back-to-back games against the Turks as a given 6 points in United to be qualified, and that was never the case. Anyone who'd seen Başakşehir play against Leipzig and PSG knew while they started their title defence domestically pretty poorly, they're not a bad team. They gave both of those two teams a very good game despite losing. So I think potentially there was complacency there from United's part. Probably an expectation that they'd go and get the result after what they did to PSG and Leipzig, and that comes down to not just the coach but the players, as you say, as well. But yeah, it's I think they've been gubbed by the schedulers again this weekend. United, really, really difficult, playing in Turkey on a Wednesday night, then playing the early game on Saturday. That's harsh, and that's another reason why you don't want to be on United at 2.45. He has got a big squad. He did rest and rotate some of his players, but I think we're just struggling to get a good read on this United team. What 11 are they going to put out? What system are they going to play? I'm finding it impossible. They're so erratic at the moment. Adrian summed up the game superbly, pretty much covered everything I had put down here on my notes. They're kind of flittering between sublime and ridiculous, atrocious and brilliant. More often than not, they've been awful at Old Trafford, bar that Leipzig game, and quite decent on the road. I think before Başakşehir, they'd won 9 games on the spin across all competitions away from home going back to June, scoring goals quite freely too. But yeah, there's no way I can get on with them, mainly because the schedule as well. I think it's really tough considering Everton have a free week. Everton themselves have looked quite limp in the last 2 weeks, but as Adrian says, that's injuries and suspensions biting. They don't have the biggest squad, and they are very reliant on some key players. Last weekend, no fullbacks in terms of Coleman or Digne. Digne will be back. No James, no Richarlison. We'll expect to have James back as well. So that's 2 players who will improve them going forward. I'm not necessarily sure Digne will improve them defensively because they are a bit of a rabble without the ball anyway. So yeah, I'm hopeful that we'll get a good game here. Plenty of goals as well. I think only Liverpool and Leeds matches are featuring more open play opportunities according to expected goals than Everton, and overs has landed in 9 of United's 11 games this season, over 3.5 and 5 of those across all comps, and just the 1 clean sheet as well in the Premier League. So I'd actually, because the line is expecting goals, and it's what odds against for over 2 3/4, just take the over 2.5 around 1.8. I think it's absolutely fair enough. BTTS is trading around 1.6-ish, so I'd just take the over, just as flat overs. You're getting paid out full price if 3 or more, fine by me.
Yeah, I like that. Over 2.5 currently, as you said, available at 1.8 at Matchbook. So yeah, let's not even worry about the 2.75 here, and let's get with goals in that one. And yeah, look, United are at 2.45. Again, they could just turn around and blitz Everton here. One question in, I think, Mark, you covered some of it there from Onchido. on Twitter. Are Richarlison and James back? I think you said James is back, but Richarlison.
James is, he's still an injury doubt, but we're expecting him to be fit. I think he was touch and go last week, whereas Richarlison's got another game of his ban, so he won't be back until after the international break. Nice couple of weeks off for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, that's over 2.5 so locked in for Manchester United away at Everton. Let's have a look at our last game on the main slate right now, which is Chelsea and Sheffield United. Bring it up on screen here, or will we? We won't. No, we won't. We will at the stream. There we go. Just one of those things. Adrian, start with you here first, but let's have a look at the betting currently at Matchbook. Chelsea there just under 1.4. Sheffield United at 8.8. Draw 5.2. Sheffield United getting 1.25 goal start in the Asian handicap of 1.99. 2.75. 2 3/4 is the goal margin. And you guys disagreed on Sheffield United last week, and Mark actually won that quarrel. He took Sheffield United plus 1.5 against Man City, where you laid it. But what are you thinking with this one? Chelsea seem to have, solidified their backline. Anyway, they're not really conceding goals right now.
No, they've improved. They've renewed their focus, and the goalkeeper's reassured the back four.
Very good. He's very good, isn't he, Adrian? Very good.
He's really good. He looks an excellent acquisition. Petr Cech, I saw giving himself a pat on the back for scouting him. And if anyone should know about decent keepers, it is Petr. So they look to have got a good one there. And look at the other end of the pitch. Chelsea are scoring goals. Scored 3 or more in 5 of their 7 matches. So that has to be respected. But then you're coming up against a Sheffield United team that don't cave in, do they? They're not winning games, but they're not getting hammered either, are they? Ramsdale, terrific last weekend. I think he played a big part in that, even though City weren't spectacular. But it's a toughie because you would ordinarily have to fancy Chelsea here because they're free scoring. They've got so many options available to them. Obviously, no Havertz this weekend. He's gone down with a positive COVID test, hasn't he? But Ziyech is settled in great. Werner's getting better and better.
Yes.
And you would imagine that they could turn up like they did against Crystal Palace and score 4 goals. That could happen here, but it doesn't happen too often against Sheffield United. So I'm a little bit conflicted. Sheffield United, for me, have gone ultra defensive this season under Wilder. We saw Ampadu, didn't we, in the holding midfield position with Berger and Osborne. It's just not as creative or dynamic an engine room as it was last season. So I can see this being a bit of a training game at times with Chelsea monopolising possession, pushing Sheffield United back, and it's a toss of the coin. I think Chelsea will win the game, but will they win it by enough? I actually quite like Sheffield United with a plus 1.25 handicap here because they never lose by 2 or 3 goals, or very rarely lose by 2 or 3 goals. I think they can hang in there and either nick a draw. They got a draw there last season, of course, 2-2 at Stamford Bridge. And remember, they beat Chelsea the last time they met at Bramall Lane. They wiped the floor with them 3-0. So there's a slight, I don't know, there might be a slight doubt in Chelsea players' minds. They might think these are bogey team for us because they did us so easily before. So Sheffield United on a handicap is something that's interesting me, but I'm a little bit undecided. I might listen to what Mark has to say now.
Yeah, Mark, take it away. In agreement with Adrian here?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, a lot of my notes from last week probably apply for this game as well, because I still think Sheff United are better than the league table suggests. I know there's been a percentage drop off in both boxes, but I thought last week, whilst they were second best, there was a lot to like about them. Probably didn't use the ball well enough in forward areas where they sort of pressed and probed in the second half, particularly. But I thought they defended reasonably well. I don't think they're a million miles away from being a mid-table team again. They've not had a huge amount of luck this season. They've had a really tough schedule as well. Liverpool, Leeds, City, Wolves, Arsenal, all in their first 7 games. We know what their issues are: scoring goals, creating clear-cut chances. They've only scored actually 5.1% of their shots, which only Burnley are sort of converting on a lower rate, which is
the 3 below. The 3 below their expected goals, aren't they? I think they've been expected to basically almost double up on what they've produced, and only 1 goal from open play, which is slight worry.
And that's a longer term issue as well. I think it's 2 non-penalty goals in the last 10 league games since the start of last season. That's 15 hours of football, which is, not good, but they are competitive. They are difficult to beat. You know what you're going to get from them. And as Adrian says, they don't get beaten heavily often. 8 defeats in 45 by 2 or more goals since promotion. But I don't know if I'm probably being a bit too overthinking it, I guess, but I looked at the handicap. I thought maybe the alternative way is to get under 3 goals on side and sort of a similar price, knowing that 4 or more goals is the only way we'll lose our money. Chelsea are firm and fair favourites. They should win this match, but there are doubts about them. They had trouble, as Adrian says, against Sheff United last season. And there has been signs of progress. Mendy's obviously been a big impact. Thiago Silva starting to familiarise himself with that defence as well. But, Lampard admits himself, he's still trying to find the right formula. I don't think he can, he might go with the same sort of team he went with Burnley as well last weekend, where very attack-minded. But you look at the games that they've won recently. Rennes, they were gifted 2 penalties, really harsh penalties, and a harsh red card as well. Krasnodar, who had a dozen players out through COVID, an injury and illness. And then Burnley as well, who are really struggling. And I would say Burnley are worse off than Sheff United right now based on performances. So, I thought under 3 goals would probably be my play here. I think across all competitions, since Sheff United became a Premier League side, just 3 of their 50 matches have featured 4 or more goals. It's yet to happen this season either. So, and it might take some time for Chelsea to break them down. If you look at their goal record this season, 20 of their 30 goals across all comps have been after half-time, and 12 from 16 in the Premier League as well have come after half-time. So, alternative markets, you could look to a 0-0 half-time score, or even Sheff United in the first half handicap, something like that. But I think under 3 goals is probably where I prefer, rather than backing Sheff United plus 1.5, just knowing that a 2-0 Chelsea win still gets us paid out.
Sully, I'll jump on that. That's fine. I think he's made a strong case. Made a strong case for that.
Well, to be fair, Adrian, your angle was it's coming at it from a very similar point of view. So but look, I think under 3, absolutely, exactly, But I think under 3 is probably just a bit more security there, just in case of a 2-0 Chelsea win, and we'll get paid that way. So okay, so let's do a quick recap of those 4 games for what we have. Let's have a look at Liverpool plus a half a goal. Probably one of the smaller plays of these 4 games. Wolves getting a quarter of goal start on the Asian handicap. Over 2.5 in Everton versus Manchester United, and as we just said, under 3 goals in Chelsea versus Sheffield United. Right, guys, let's go elsewhere right now. No football league, as we said this week, as they're in the FA Cup, but Adrian, there's still championship games to get involved in, and you're looking at a couple here, man.
Yeah, they're part of the Football League, but League One and League Two clubs are involved in the FA Cup first round. There's probably some good games to look at there, but I'm going to focus on the Championship. 2 really interesting games here. I like a themes double. I'm going to go for another one here today, which hopefully you'll enjoy. It's a Lancashire double. A Lancashire double. Preston to win at Rotherham. Now, Preston are one of the weirdest teams in the EFL at the moment. They are just absurd because last night they went to Reading, the runaway leaders Reading, beat them 3-0. They've beaten Brentford away. They've beaten Huddersfield away, QPR away. They drew with Norwich. At Deepdale, 5 straight defeats. It's so hard to really understand what's going on, but they love it on the road. And I just get the feeling there's a feeling of invincibility about Preston when they do play away from their home patch. And Rotherham are not one of the most secure home teams in the division. You know that they're going to be up, involved in a relegation race this season. Have been beaten 3 times at home already this season, last night to Luton. So and their only win at home was against 10 men, Sheffield Wednesday. So for me, Preston at 2.18 are worth backing here. I think that's, odds against on the team with that kind of record on the road is decent. The other half of my double would be Blackburn actually to beat QPR. Now QPR, fantastic result last night against Derby. Obviously against Cardiff the weekend before, but not 2 of the best attacking units you'll ever come across, Derby and Cardiff. Whereas Blackburn, I just think they are the biggest underachievers of the season so far. You look at all the data, they're creating stacks of chances, and I think on the XG expected goals at home, they're second only to Norwich. and they're fourth overall in terms of the goals that they're expected to score. They've been unlucky, in my opinion. Armstrong, Brereton, Harvey Elliott. I think they, even though QPR got a good clean sheet at Derby, I don't know if they can go back to back in terms of on the road. And I just strongly fancy them. 15th is a very much a false position, I think, for a Blackburn team that should, in my opinion, beat them. Price isn't that generous, 1.8, but you combine the double, it's 3.8 for the Lancs double.
They're pretty generous prices, just as singles, to be fair. So I'd be backing those at those prices. Red Rose double, we'll call that one, Adrian.
That's it. Yeah.
Mark O'Hare, Europe. Tell me, Dortmund are going to beat Bayern Munich, but I don't think that's where you're going.
I'd like them to beat Bayern Munich. Whether I think they can, it all depends really on Matt Hummels' fitness, really, because if he's missing, that defence is looking really vulnerable.
Pitzer was playing centre back last night against Bruges.
Yeah, Official played centre half away in Bruges. Previously, they've tried Thomas Delaney there as well. Issues there. They got a fortunate clean sheet actually in Bruges in midweek. So, but yeah, I don't think there's any wriggle room in those prices really. Bayern expected to win. You would expect them to win, but I've focused on Italy. Our good friends Atalanta play Inter Milan, arguably the game of the weekend for me.
Yes.
Anyone who's listened to the Champions League podcast probably know what I'm going to be talking up here. Over 3.5 goals, odds against 2.05. As Brothers said in the Champions League podcast, every game bar one this season across all competitions, including pre-season friendlies, have featured 4 or more goals for Atalanta. The one that didn't was at Crotone last weekend away from home when focus was on the Liverpool game. They rested and rotated quite heavily. They were desperately disappointing in that game, has to be said, but I think the absence of De Bruyne in midfield is massive for them. Their manager, Gasperini, loves him in the big games, and you can see his leadership, his expertise, marshalling that midfield is sorely missed when he's not available. He won't be here for Inter Milan, which is a big blow for Atalanta, but you would expect them to strike a blow on Inter as well, who've dominated nearly all their games, played really well against Real Madrid, but just not getting the results that probably their play deserves. Lautaro broke his goal-scoring duck in Madrid midweek, which is great for him because Lukaku's a major doubt again, which is a bit of a blow for this bet. But you basically got 2 teams who just love to attack, can't really defend at the moment either. Unusually for a Conte team, Inter are coughing up chances and conceding goals, making stupid errors at the back as well. So, this game pits together 2 of the highest total XG from open play teams in Serie A this season, Cagliari being the other. So Inter 2 clean sheets in 9. They've scored 2 goals or more in 6 of those 9. Atalanta over 3.5. As I said, in all of those games bar 1, and BTTS in 7 of 9 as well. So strong stats there, and just following the theme as well. Friday night.
Yeah, just on Lukaku, I thought Perisic did quite well the last night, didn't he? He's a pretty good replacement to have. They're very different players, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's which game do you look at Perisic's performances as a sort of false striker? Midweek he played really well. Last weekend, pretty wretched despite scoring the decisive goal late on. So swings and roundabouts with him. But Sassuolo on Friday night playing Udinese. 1-2-0 at Napoli last weekend, despite missing 2 of their best 3 players, Caputo and Berardi. A really good performance, a rare clean sheet. Expecting business to revert to usual this weekend. Over 2 3/4 goals would be the angle here. They scored 2 or more goals in 5 of 6. In 4 of those, they scored at least 3 goals. Their games are averaging almost 3.3 expected goals. Their head coach, De Zerbi, just loves his team to get forward. He's very much in the sort of Gasperini mould, likes to play the ball forward of all possibilities. Just leads to really fun affairs. And I guess Udinese, normally probably the dullest team in Italy to follow. And if you looked at their first 3 games, you'd probably suggest they're sort of carrying on that theme, failing to score in all 3, just 4 goals in total in those matches. But there's been a shift, a really good shift since. They gave Milan a really good game last Sunday. They lost it 2-1. It followed on a really unfortunate 3-2 defeat at Fiorentina, where they played really well and got forward, created plenty of chances. I think the XG was around 2.5 for them as well. But this really relies on Sassuolo. Since the start of last season, 19 of 22 at home have produced profit in this market, over 2.5 goals. 55% have gone over 3.5, and 77% have seen BTTS and an average of 4.09 goals per game. So, it should be quite good fun on Friday night in Sassuolo.
Sassuolo, great watch. They're this potentially this season's Atalanta. Just one other comment in here, guys. Adrian, this one is for you, mate. From David M on YouTube. I always come for Adrian's EFL tips. David, to be honest, it's the reason I get out of bed on Thursday morning, man.
Fingers crossed the Red Rose double, checks in. I've pulled out a couple of other EFL tips or championship tips on the column, on the Insights. So that'll be up later, won't it?
Good man. Get the plug in at insights.matchbook.com. Adrian will be there, and also Mark will be there as well. Hopefully with some European stuff. Right, gentlemen, let's move on. Weekend best bets. So we have in total, we have 8 selections already. Adrian, is one of those selections your best bet, or are you going elsewhere, man?
No, I'm going to go elsewhere, mix it up a little bit. I'm going to dive back in on the Premier League, one of the games we haven't covered. Southampton, Newcastle. I looked at the market, and the price really attracted me because of the Danny Ings factor. Now, Danny Ings is out for 6 weeks. Now, Danny Ings is the man that makes Southampton tick as an attacking force, in my opinion. His energy, dynamism, he's just a fantastic player. And I think his absence is going to put a lot of pressure on Shea Adams, who's a good player, but not quite at the same level as Danny Ings. So I think that might just impact on Southampton's so far excellent attacking output. And Newcastle, just look at the away games they've had so far. Cagey, at Spurs, nicked a 1-1. At Wolves, nicked a 1-1. West Ham, they play well actually, but it was 2-0. It was low on goals. This fixture in the last 2 seasons at St Mary's, 1-0 to Newcastle last year, goalless draw the season before. So I just think go against the grain in terms of the odds. It's around even, I think, at around 2 on under 2.5 goals, Southampton against Newcastle. So that is where I'm going.
And unders in a Premier League game. Good man, you're a brave man, Adrian. I love it. Just go against it. Love it. Mark, go here. What's your best bet of the weekend, man?
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and pick one I've already mentioned.
Okay.
You can't deny what the numbers are telling you, and Sassuolo's game against Udinese on Friday night. I'll just repeat those stats. Since the start of last season, 22 home games, 19 of them have gone at least over 2.5 goals, 55% over 3.5 goals, 77% BTTS, and 4.09 goals per game. So, yeah, normally I'd run a mile when Udinese are involved, looking at sort of a goal angle, but they have shown a significant shift towards playing a much more forward-thinking approach, which is what most of the Italian teams are doing right now. So, I think we're almost around a 70% hit rate for over 2.5 goals in Italy this season. So this game looks like an opportunity to enhance that record. So over 2 3/4 goals there.
Mark, where do I sign? I'm on it.
load up the betting accounts. Yeah, no, it's to be fair, anyone backing unders and that, the best luck. Not one to be watching anyway, that's for sure, Mark. All right, guys, we're almost out of time. Thank you again, Adrian. Thanks again, Mark. We've got a lot of bets this week, 9 bets in total locked in, so hopefully we'll turn a profit. Once again, thank you for watching today. If you're watching us on the Team Matchbook YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter channels, or thanks for listening if you are on the podcast. Don't forget you can subscribe on your preferred podcast app. Best of luck with your bets this week, and we're on international break. I forgot about that. Oh, jeez. Okay. I was going to say we're back next week, but that's not going to happen. Those international breaks, they do pop every now and again. But you know what, Mark? I think we're due one, mate. I think we're due a bit of an off week and just to chill with this Champions League stuff coming back again. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time, or maybe 3 weeks' time. But we will be back. Don't worry, once the Premier League returns. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll chat to you then. Enjoy the weekend.